From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 Show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 Show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Yes, welcome into episode 40 of the 301 Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and lets YouTube know that this video is worth watching and puts it out to more people. In this episode, we will get into the Vikings' final game in Europe before the bye week. The Twins also continue their search for a manager after firing Rocco Baldelli. Both hockey teams make a signing this in the past week, and the basketball teams will get into Nephessa Collier's comments about the WNBA's commissioner, as well as the Timberwolves' first preseason game against the Denver Nuggets. All of that and more here on episode 40 of the 301 Show. All right, now on to target field talkers. We've got a couple things to go over here. First, we'll just get this one out of the way because I think the other topic here is a bigger discussion. Byron Buxton has been nominated for the Hank Aaron Award, which is, again, just another offensive award given to an American League player and a National League player. So he is nominated with the likes of Aaron Judge, Cal Raleigh, Bobby Witt Jr., just some of the greatest, offensive players from this past season. He played 126 games. His slash line, he had 246 batting average, 327 on base percentage, 551 slugging, and his on base plus slugging was 878. He had 129 hits this season, averaging more than one hit a game. And that was, he had 97 runs scored. He had 83 RBIs, 35 home runs, 21 doubles, 7 triples, 24 stolen bases. He was caught 0 times, and he had a 4.9 wins above replacement, which is just a statistical metric to basically say how many wins were you worth more than the average minor league player that would have gotten called up had you not been on the team. So an average player is 0.0. So he was 4.9 wins above replacement. In terms of hits, runs scored, RBIs, home runs, triples, and WAR, they were all career highs. His stolen bases per attempts were also a career high. It was the most his most stolen bases in a year where he did not get caught stealing. It was not the most stolen bases in a single season, but it was the only year he had more. He did get caught stealing once or twice in that season. So fantastic season out of Byron Buxton. Again, I've been saying this all season for the Twins. It's the first time he's been healthy for the majority of the season. He was hurt for, basically 40 games, almost 40 games of it, but first time ever he's been healthy for the majority of it, and the Twins sucked. And it's like, how many times have we said throughout his career, we need Byron Buxton to be healthy, and that'll just put the Twins up over the edge and get them into the playoffs and advance them, a little bit further. And this season, it was the exact opposite. Byron Buxton deserved to be in the playoffs. It's just the Twins did not have the team around him to do so. But as I brought up in the intro, the Twins have a manager vacancy after firing Rocco Baldelli. There are 2 different sources that had some interesting possibilities. One I've brought up before. Bobby Nightingale is also now reporting. It's not just Trevor Plouffe, but Bobby Nightingale is also now reporting that Torrey Hunter is a possibility, at a list of possible manager candidates, and Torrey Hunter was on that list. So Torrey Hunter looks more and more like an actual possibility to be the manager of this team. The only problem is that the Angels also need a manager, and he is a coach for the Los Angeles Angels. And why would he want to leave sunny Southern California and come back to Minnesota to be the manager here? But the second candidate is that Kurt Suzuki is in the running for the job. He apparently is going to be interviewed. That is according to Susan Slusler of the San Francisco Chronicle. He has been in a front office advisor role since he retired, basically. He has not had a managerial job since he retired in 2022, so this would be his first managerial job. So those two former players are expected to be possible targets for this job. In terms of this will be a shorter segment for Target Field Talkers. We've got a lot to get into in the other teams, but in terms of the predictions, I didn't have any come off the board. The stats for Target Field Talkers, I don't have a graphic for them, but the stats for Target Field Talkers are 29 of 94 for 31%. The three predictions going on the board, I'm going to put this in writing. I said the next Twins manager will have played for the team at some point in their career, will have played for the actual Twins in their career. I also will say I'm going to give 2026 a little bit of optimism here. I'm going to say that the Twins will win a playoff game in 2026. So not only will they make the playoffs, they will win a playoff game. We will not need to wait another 18 playoff games for another win. Attendance in 2026 will be higher than it was in 2025. I think I'm going to say that if they hire, this is unofficial prediction, but they'll hire Torrey Hunter, and he will be able to get on name recognition alone, he will be able to get that attendance higher in 2026 than it was in 2025. All right, now moving on to the Wolves' Den. We will start with the Timberwolves. A little bit less there to discuss than the Lynx. Preseason game 1 happened. The Wolves won 126-116. Ant did not play. He did not even suit up, so he did not play in this game. But I do want to go over quickly Boone's Highland. In 22 minutes, he had 18 points. He was 5 of 8 from the field. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. I think he has is successfully playing himself into maybe not a rotation right away, but into a roster spot for sure, and then could possibly after a few weeks be playing himself into an actual roster spot, an actual rotation spot, not just a roster spot. I don't think he's going to be close to sniffing starter time, like anywhere near the starting lineup. Knock on wood that doesn't happen with injury. But I don't even think he's going to be getting like starter first guy off the bench minutes like that. But I do think he could very well be a guy that they rely on as a depth piece in this lineup. And I do want to say too, like this season is comes down to a lot of just continuity, like having the same core guys. I know you lost Nikhil Alexander-Walker, but having Ant and Julius and DDV and Gobert and Nas, and having those core group of Jaden McDaniels, having that core group here for another season, and have them like Julius and DDV, have them here, all summer, and not just the night before training camp, not the night before media day, and having them here for an entire summer, having them get used to Minnesota, and I think we'll see I think that's going to be a massive help. Like, this team made the Western Conference Finals back-to-back years, and I think that they will having that continuity is going to only help them. Obviously, you have in the West, you have OKC and you have Denver, and those teams are. And Houston looks like they, with adding KD, they loaded up too. Like, having those teams out west, they're always going to be an issue. But I think this Wolves team can be in that conversation of always being an issue. I think that Johan Berenger is basically going to step in and be the, maybe not right away, but eventually he's going to step in and be that Rudy Gobert replacement. And he's going to, like, this continuity of how this team is built will stay the same too. Like, I think that is fantastic for any team in any sport, especially basketball, when contracts are only 5 years long. You know, like, there's a limit on how long the contracts are. And I think that's great to see that they're bringing these guys back for another year. And if you think that Tim Conley needs to make a change, he's probably not going to make a change. And if you think he doesn't need to make a change, that's when he probably will make, like, whatever the majority of fans want to see happen with Tim Conley, he's probably going to end up doing the opposite. So, just again, continuity is fantastic. Look at the first year that Gobert was here. They were, I think, won 42 games out of the 82. They went 42-40. Now, Cat was hurt for the majority of that season, and they had a lot of injuries that year. So that was definitely part of it. But then the next year they took a step forward, and that was the first year they made it to the Western Conference Finals. And then they made a Cat trade, and they took a step back record-wise, but still made it to that Western Conference Finals. So I think just giving it a year and saying, hey, maybe those moves just needed some time to work themselves out, and maybe the moves actually would have put us over the edge had that continuity been there a little bit earlier. So I think that just the continuity, in my mind, is the big word. The big message is just of this NBA season for the Wolves is continuity. But let's move on to the Lynx. The WNBA finals are going on right now, but the biggest story in the WNBA is Nephessa Collier. She had some quotes from her exit press conference, and then there was some more news that came out after that. But she had a statement. The statement is you can find it on the internet if you want to, on YouTube here probably, if you want to hear the whole things out of her words. But I pulled a couple of quotes. So the first quote, it started off with how she was talking about coaches, winning and losing coaches are calling out the bad officiating. And the quote is, yet leadership issues fines and looks the other way. They ignore the issues that everyone inside the game is begging to be fixed. That is negligence. Our leadership's answer to being held accountable is to suppress everyone's voices by handing out fines. I'm not concerned about the fine. I'm concerned about the future of our sport. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. And honestly, based off of some of the calls that I saw from watching a few WNBA games this summer, I kind of agree. Like, there are some absolutely absurd either calls or no calls in the WNBA right now. And the fact that, and we'll get into the worst leadership, but the fact that these refs aren't doing it or aren't being held accountable, and like, it's okay to, like, having bad refs is not in itself the main issue here. It's that the bad refs aren't being addressed is the big issue. And her next quote from that same statement that she made was, this is Nephessa Collier talking about WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. So Kathy Engelbert's response was, well, only losers complain about the refs. That's absurd. The Lynx would go and complain when they won a game about the referees. And yes, losers generally tend to complain about the refs more than winners do, but that's not exclusive to the losers. Like, there were a lot of bad calls that were being called out by the team that had won that game. And this is the most absurd. Again, I'm not like, this is Nephessa Collier's comments, and we were not in this meeting, so I'm tending to believe Collier here, but it's not 100%. Like, it might turn out to be false, but this is the quote from Nephessa Collier. Said, I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Beckers, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little in their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court because without the platform the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't be making anything. In that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. That's driving the mentality of our league from the top. Okay, Caitlin Clark was, I think, the highest paid female athlete in NIL money, and she was like in the top 4 or 5 of just any athlete in college or last year in college. Caitlin Clark does not need the platform of the WNBA. She was getting offered contracts from Ice Cube to play in the 3-on-3 league that he has. I forget what the name of the league is right now, but she was getting offered $5 million per year to go play in that league. Caitlin Clark especially does not need the WNBA right now. She absolutely doesn't. And it's absolutely absurd that this Kathy Engelbert is talking about how Caitlin should be grateful for us and be on her knees thanking us. Like, that's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. And Collier here canceled her meeting with WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. According to Axios, it was due to the lack of accountability. And I don't I forget who said this, but I saw somewhere on social media that said, if Adam Silver, who's the NBA commissioner, if he came out and said LeBron James should be on his knees thanking the NBA that we are giving him the platform that he has, Adam Silver might die by the riots of I'm not saying he should die, but there would be riots if Adam Silver said that. There would absolutely be riots. Again, I don't think Adam Silver would ever say that, but that's basically the equivalent there. Like, it blows my mind at the ego of Engelbert at this point. But we will move on from that before we get too far into that. But we had predictions here. We did not have any Wolves Den predictions. Wolves Den stays at 27 out of 89 for 30% correct. The 3 coming on the board here is that first one is that Kathy Engelbert will not be the WNBA commissioner by the beginning of the 2027 season. So not next summer, but the summer after that. She will not be the WNBA commissioner. I think Anthony Edwards will drop 35 plus points in the season opener. And Naz Reid will drop 30 plus points in a game in the first month of the season. All right, now moving on to the Nordic Report, where the Vikings are sitting at a record of 3-2. They are still 1-0 in the division. The week 1 game against the Bears, the only game they've played in the NFC North. In the NFC as a whole, they are tied for 6th. They are in 3rd place in the NFC North behind the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Their offense is averaging 305 yards per game, which is 25th. The points for per game is 24.6, tied for 15th. And again, that includes a couple of defensive touchdowns from that Cincinnati game. On third down, they have gone for it 58 times, and they have converted 18 of them successfully for 31%. That is 31st in the NFL. Fourth down, 4 of 6 for 66%. That is tied for 11th. On the defensive side of the ball, they are 289.8 yards against per game, which is 6th. Points against per game is 19.4, which is 5th. On third down, they are 44 of 63, stopping teams 69.8% of the time, which is 2nd lowest in the NFL. And again, for these percentage ones, I go based off of the percentage, not just the straight up number of times that they have stopped or gone for it, depending on what side of the ball it is. On fourth down, they have stopped opponents 2 out of 5 times. That is 40%. That is tied for 17th. They were not good on fourth down against the Cleveland Browns. The special teams, Will Reichert missed his first field goal, which we'll get into that in just a second here. He is 8 for 9. That is 88.9%. That is tied for 10th in the NFL. The long is still the 62-yarder coming in that Bengals game that just got inside the right upright. That is still 3rd in the NFL. PAT is 100%. He is 11 for 11 on the extra points. That is tied for 1st. So in that, we'll look back here at the game against the Cleveland Browns in London. The Vikings remain undefeated in London, in England. They win 21-17. It's very much just a grinded out game. They lost Jordan Addison for the first quarter. He was suspended for the first quarter. He was it looked like it was a team suspension. His quote was that he was nervous about before the game, he had been nervous about being suspended for the entirety of the game, which means that the team probably fined him to the max that they could under the CBA rules. But he did have 5 receptions for 41 yards and the eventual game-winning touchdown at the end of the game, which I do want to touch on that last drive in just a moment here. Justin Jefferson continues to put up yards here. Even if he's not finding the back of the end zone, he is still putting up yards. He has 7 receptions, 123 yards this past Sunday. We'll say both Jordan Mason and Xavier Scott, the running backs, did lose fumbles. So not going back to the couple years ago where they just could not hold on to the ball. But they pulled off with the third running back, they did pull off one of the coolest trick plays. Cam Akers did throw a touchdown pass. Carson Wentz went out wide, and Cam Akers threw it over to Josh Oliver. Speaking of Carson Wentz, he went 25 of 34 for 236 yards. He had 1 touchdown. He had 3 sacks, a 102.1 passer rating, and a 45.9 QBR. Which, again, here's where I will talk about that. Well, actually, no, I got 2 more things, and we'll talk about the final drive. Which, actually, 3 more things. We'll go over the Will Reichert did miss a kick, and on the replay, and again, you can find this on social media, it very clearly hit a cable from one of the Skycam cables. The ref did not see it. If they had saw it, it should have been a redo kick. They should have had him line up for it again. But the last two things are about the offensive line. Given the circumstances, the offensive line actually did not look terrible. And part of those circumstances were that Christian Darrisaw had a snap limit, according to Kevin Seifert. And so that's why he was pulled early and basically did not play the entire fourth quarter. But that does make the game-winning drive all that more impressive because Carson Wentz went 9 for 9 passing on that drive, and they did score a touchdown to Jordan Addison. So that did look very impressive on that final drive with Carson Wentz. But yeah, we'll get to it in just a second here too. But one of my predictions that was wrong was I said Myles Garrett will record at least 1.5 sacks, and that offensive line held up enough where he didn't get a single sack. So that Browns defense is very, very good. And the fact that they were able to find a way to win with a ragtag, not really ragtag offensive line, but kind of a ragtag offensive line, they were able to actually perform pretty well. But yeah, look ahead. The bye week is coming up here. They do play the Philadelphia Eagles after the bye, and we will get into this more next week. But the big debate is on if J.J. McCarthy should start after the bye against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I do have a prediction about that I will go on the record of saying my thoughts right now, and then we'll get into it more next week. But you guys let me know in the comments too on if you think J.J. McCarthy should start after the bye against the Philadelphia Eagles. It is a home game on Sunday, that Sunday after the bye. But we will move on to predictions here. I've got 4 predictions that came off the board. 2 of them incorrect. 2 of them were correct. So the first 2, Jordan Addison gets suspended exactly 3 games this year. He did not get suspended exactly 3 games. He has been suspended by the league for exactly 3 games, but he was suspended by the team for a quarter. So it's 3.25 games thus far. So I am taking that off the board as incorrect. Had another one be incorrect here where Myles Garrett records at least 1.5 sacks. That one, again, as I mentioned, was also incorrect. And then the final 2 predictions here, I said the Vikings the combined score is less than 39.5 points. It was 21-17, so that is 38 points. Then I said that the Vikings will beat the Browns. That was correct. They did. That gets me up to 30 total correct predicted and 84 total predicted for 36%. Got 3 coming on the board here. First one is that the McCarthy will not play against the Philadelphia Eagles. I said the Vikings will beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they've shown that they are human against the Denver Broncos. So the Vikings will win against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then the Vikings will win a playoff game that is not hosted at US Bank Stadium. I am wording this very carefully because even if they get home field advantage, they will be guaranteed at least one game not at US Bank Stadium. I'm not saying that they will be the away team in this one. They just will not be. They will win a game not at US Bank Stadium. So if they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, they could go to the Super Bowl and win it, and that game would not be hosted at US Bank Stadium. So Vikings' final prediction is that they will win a playoff game not at US Bank Stadium. All right. on to the last team segment of the episode. We'll start with the Frost. Again, like I said at the beginning, they brought back a player, that player being Britta Curl. She signed a 2-year contract extension through the 2027-28 season. Frost general manager Melissa Caruso said, quote, "We know what we're getting in Britta, and she's lived up to every expectation. She's made a meaningful impact on the ice, brought great energy to the locker room, and was one of the first to step up to volunteer in our community. It's no surprise she was a 2-time captain in college." So again, I think this is a great move for the Frost. I think Britta Curl is, was a big piece of why this team was successful last year. And I think will be another big piece as to why they're successful again in this upcoming season. As the Frost, look to three-peat with the Walter Cup. Moving back over to the Wild here, they also brought back or at least extended a familiar face. That familiar face being the Gus Bus, Filip Gustavsson, gets a 5-year deal worth $34 million. That's an AAV of $6.8 million. He has a full no movement clause in 2026-27, so the first year of that deal, and the second year of that deal being 27-28. That then moves to a 15-team no trade clause from the 2028-29 season through the 2030-31 season. So the last 3 years of that deal is a 15-team no trade clause. Now, I do think that was intentional, because I do think that because of Jesper Wallstedt, I think that will be... I do like this deal, I will say. I do really like this deal. The fact that they got him under $7 million, I really do like that they were able to do that. And I do like that they gave him a 15-team no trade clause, because that gives them an out of if Jesper Wallstedt is turning into the prospect, the goalie that he was drafted to be. I think that there are enough teams that would take a guy like Filip Gustavsson and trade for him. So I do really like that part of the deal. And again, that is a debate here now with these two, Wallstedt and Gustafsson. I do think Gustafsson, at least for this season, will be getting the majority of the starts. But again, if Wallstedt does turn into the goaltender that we think he should be turning into, I think that this does cause a debate. And I don't know. We'll have to see what the right answer is. And I do think part of that on Gus's end does start with how he looks at the beginning of each year. The last 2 years he hasn't looked, or excuse me, not this past year, but the 2 years before that, he didn't look great at the beginning of those 2 years. Last year he did. If he continues that, then I think that this is very, very much a tough call if, again, Wallstedt turns out to be that goalie. Because I don't think you're going to, I think you could for maybe a year, maybe 2, have that, Bruins tandem where you've got Allmark and Swayman. But I don't think that that's going to be a long-term solution, because I think both of these guys think that they can be, and again, very well could be starting caliber goalies. And I think that is a very valid and honest just thing to think about. And Gustafsson has proven over the last few years that he can be. And we're projecting, but I think Wallstedt can be too. So that is a debate, but luckily we don't have to have that debate this year. I still think that this, at least for this season, this is Gus's net to lose at this point. I am rolling with Gustavsson for the majority. Now, I don't think he's going to get like 70 games. I think that Wallstedt is going to get quite a few games in the anywhere from 20 to 35 games. I think he's going to get, but I think Gustavsson will get significantly more than that 41 game advantage, where 41 games is a 50-50 split. Again, barring some sort of injury. But yeah, for right now, for me, this is Gus's net to lose. I do want to bring up to the Kirill Kaprizov contract, and in the light of Connor McDavid's contract that he signed. I think that was yesterday as I'm recording this on a Tuesday night. Connor McDavid got a 2-year deal worth $12.5 million per year. Now you might, and Wild fans might look at that and then look at Kaprizov's contract with $17 million per year, and and like a lot of fans' reaction might be some sticker shock at this point, but for me, there's a couple ways to look at this. First of all, it's the 2-year deal is what is more to me is more of a sticker shock than $12.5 million. To me, that doesn't say that McDavid is has all that much confidence in has that much confidence in the Edmonton Oilers. But the $12.5 million is saying, hey, I want to win. We've been this close the last couple of years. I want to win, so go spend that money and let us win. Kirill Kaprizov is a completely different scenario. Again, Connor McDavid's got Leon Draisaitl with him. If Connor McDavid leaves, the Edmonton Oilers are still going to be a pretty good team. I don't know if they're going to be Stanley Cup contender good team, but definitely could make a decently deep playoff run. The Minnesota Wild without Kirill Kaprizov are barely a 500 team. That's just barely maybe making the playoffs. And that is why you pay Kirill Kaprizov $17 million. I also think within the next couple of years, look at McDavid in 2 years, and Austin Matthews is a free agent that same year, and in 3 years from now, those guys could be making $20 million per year. And with how much the cap is going up, the $17 million in a couple of years might look like a very good deal. This is the perfect example. I have this written down. A couple of years ago, Matt Boldy was given $7 million per year. And that looked like a gross overpay for Matt Boldy at the time. But right now, if Matt Boldy hit the free agent market, on this past July 1st, I think he could get $10 million on the AAV. So if you take $3 million of Kirill Kaprizov's contract and give it to Boldy, and say you get Kirill for 14 and Boldy for 10, I think that is Wild fans would do that in a heartbeat. Joel Eriksson-Ek is making $5.25 million. That's an underpayment. Joel Eriksson-Ek, for what he brings, should be getting at least $7 to $8 million. Marco Rossi is only getting $5 million. Marcus Foligno is getting $4 million. He should be getting 5 or 6. I think there's way more players on this team that are underpaid than overpaid. And I'm not including guys on their rookie deals. That's a limit that the league puts in. I'm not talking about those. So guys that are actually on their second, third, more than just their rookie contract. There's 4 guys that I just mentioned there that are getting paid, underpaid by millions of dollars. So I just think, yes, the sticker shock on Kaprizov looks like a lot right now. And yes, it does. I agree with that. It looks like a lot right now. But you need Kaprizov for this team to succeed. He is absolutely essential to this team. Now, we've got a couple more pieces of news. Kind of disappointing on this first one. Hunter Height was sent down. I was kind of hoping that they would have given some of the young guys looks this year, but they are going with some of the veterans. But some good news is I didn't like that they traded him, but Damian Hunt was claimed off of waivers by Minnesota from the Columbus Blue Jackets, so we get Damian Hunt back. Jack Johnson was released from his professional tryout contract to make room for Damian Hunt. I do really, really like Damian Hunt. I thought he was going to be one of these guys like a Juracek before they got Juracek from Columbus. I thought he was going to be one of those bottom pair defensemen players this season. So I do like that they brought Hunt back, and basically just had to give up a guy that probably wasn't going to make the roster anyways by just releasing him. But yeah, if we look ahead, end of this week, the Wild start their season in St. Louis against the Blues at 7 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, October 9th. And then they start their home schedule on Saturday the 11th at 7 p.m. at home against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So they've got the first couple games of their season coming up here this week. Predictions coming off the board. Had a couple come off the board. And I said Kirill Kaprizov signs an extension that is 5 years by $14.5 million. Neither one of those were correct. He went above both of those. I said that Kirill doesn't re-sign with the Wild before November 1st. That was incorrect. I said Filip Gustavsson re-signs with the Wild before Kirill does. That was incorrect. Said that Kirill signs for more than $15 million AAV. That was correct. It was $17 million AAV. Said Kirill and Gus Bus get an extension this offseason. I'm counting that as correct because it was before the first regular season game. Said Kirill Kaprizov signs with Minnesota for exactly 8 years. He did sign with Minnesota for exactly 8 years. And I said the Wild will split against the Chicago Blackhawks in the preseason. They did go 1-1 against the Blackhawks. So that brings my total up to 20 total correct predicted out of 68 predictions for 31%. We've got 3 more coming on the board here. Said Britta Curl Salami will get 20 plus points this season. She got 15 last year, so she's going to increase it by at least 5 this season. So the Wild will beat the Blues in the season opener, and the Wild will beat the Blue Jackets in the home opener. So the Wild will start the season off 2-0. All right, now the final segment here today, the Power Ranking segment. Again, if you're new here, the Power Ranking segment is a list of a top 10 subject in Minnesota sports, and I rank what I think is the top 10 in that category, and we will debate it in the comments too. So if you agree with me, disagree with me, please leave some sort of message down below. Also, if you have an idea for a topic that you want me to rank in the future, please let me know. I will do my best to accommodate that. Please keep it related to Minnesota sports and relatively family friendly. But for this episode 40, the power rankings subject we have here is the top 10 Minnesota sports traditions. So the top 10 traditions in Minnesota sports. The top 9 are all fan related, or fans can somehow get involved in the top 9. Number 10 is more of a funny one, and I just couldn't fully remember another tradition here. But number 10 here, coming in at number 10 is the Vikings 1-year wonder veteran quarterbacks. You think about, obviously, the big one being Brett Favre in 2009. You got Case Keenum, you Sam Darnold this past season. Just quarterbacks like that being just kind of 1-year wonders for vet QBs in Minnesota. Number 9 is throwing out the first pitch at a Twins game. That being, again, very fan friendly and fan related. Number 8, we've got St. John's University football tailgating. Again, just a campus in the middle of nowhere. People will tailgate for it. Number 7, we're moving up to the pros, at least the minor league pros. We've got St. Paul Saints tailgating. In the parking lot, in a couple of parking lots in St. Paul. Number 6 and 7 were very close for me. I could very well put the Saints tailgating up at number 6 and number 6 here down at number 7. But at number 7, sticking with the tailgating theme, I've got Gophers football tailgating. Again, all of them very much in the same line, being just all tailgating options. But I think they're all fantastic traditions here in Minnesota sports. And then moving on to pulling up the top 5 right now. Number 5 is one that we are likely never going to be able to do or see again here, but it is, in my opinion, still a fantastic tradition. It is the white Homer hankies, the Metrodome Homer hankies. Baseball has banned the white Homer hankies because it's too distracting, but I think the white Homer hankies are the best Homer hankies and still a fantastic tradition in Minnesota sports. Number 4 is the Gallarhorn at US Bank Stadium. And again, different celebrity or face of Minnesota, somehow related to Minnesota, goes out and blows the Gallarhorn before every game. And that is accompanied with number 3 being the Skol chant. Again, the Skol chant, I think, is a fantastic tradition. I think a lot of people would think that is number 1. But again, my top 2 are very much hockey bias. I'm a huge hockey fan. So the top 2 are both hockey related. Number 2 being Hockey Day Minnesota, having the entire day just related to hockey and having outdoor high school games, and then a wild game at night usually starts at like 8 p.m. I think, again, is a fantastic, captures the essence of Minnesota traditions. So that comes in at number 2. At number 1, the number 1 tradition in all of Minnesota sports. Again, we will stick with high school hockey, and a lot of people will say the tournament, and that was a little bit too broad for me because that goes over a couple different days. But number 1 for me is related to the high school hockey tournament. It is the All Hockey Hair Team, the video that gets put out every year. I do think that this is the number 1 tradition in Minnesota sports. All right, that'll do it for episode 40 of the 301 show. Again, comment down below where you agree or disagree with me. Again, please like the video. It really helps me out. It tells YouTube that this is a good video and that other people should watch it. So subscribe to the channel too, so you always stay up to date on other videos that we put out, whether they be 301 show episodes or 301 banter interviews. You can also email the show at any point with any questions, comments, concerns. The email is frozennorth30@gmail.com. We will see you next time for episode 41 of the 301 show. Peace.